Did he mean to tell Pence to just overturn the election without any concern? Or did he mean to tell him to recheck the votes, to actually like check
He didn't tell him to recheck the votes. He told him that, and he tweeted as much.
And he find them. I saw that, yes. And it does look that way.
Yeah,
However,
and when he told him to do it and Pence said he can't,
was.
Trump says to Pence, you're too honest. I mean, what do we think Trump means?
I mean, true. I also think Pence is disloyal. But however,
Pence is disloyal. Wait, disloyal to what?
Disloyal to Trump.
What is Pence supposed to be loyal to?
I mean, I think he should be loyal to the American people first and foremost.
No.
And I think that's where he should be. Yes, he should be loyal to the American people.
Absolutely not. Your first and foremost loyalty is to the United States Constitution. That's what you swear an oath to.
At the same time, I think you do also have loyalty to people within who you've sworn personal loyalty to, fealty to. Now, I'm a monarchist, so I might use words.
Sure, you don't swear loyalty or fealty to the President of the United States.
I think you should.
Jesus Christ, bro. Disney made conservatives lose their minds. Oh my God.
Mickey Mouse has to become a Nazi. He has to. Because Disney is a very, very evil corporation that wants to trans your kids and fill their heads with all sorts of crazy ideas. And Disney's got to go. Disney's got to go, guys. You heard all the Disney executives talking about their not-so-secret LGBT LMNOP agenda. You've seen what Disney has done in recent years, so much so that the governor of Florida had to take political action against them to stop Disney from trying to interfere in the democratic process in Florida to stop the libs from transing your kids. Okay, Disney is really, really bad. And so one of the best things that we can do right now is make the Disney characters toxic. And coincidentally, call it providentially, whatever it is, the Disney character is now in the public domain. And what this means is we need to turn Mickey into a Nazi. Because Nazis are bad. We're not going to turn Mickey into a Nazi because the Nazis are good. You see, I'm quite anti-Nazi. I assume you are as well. In fact, being a Nazi is the worst thing you can possibly be today and for a very long time. So we need to turn Disney into the worst thing it can possibly be, and it can be done. In fact, I'm shocked that the mischievous people on places like 4chan and other internet boards haven't done this already.
Oh, hey, okay. Oh, you dragged me. All right, there we go. Okay. I was like, what happened? It skipped me to join voice in the disagreement channel. Hello. There we go. I think now it's all right. Pretty good. How are you doing? Happy New Year, man. You said you wanted to debate some conservatards about Jan 6, and I'm open to having my mind changed about it. So yeah, we could talk about it.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess so. Here, this is the running argument that I'm using is that I believe that Donald Trump's goal was to essentially coup the United States. I think he did it by trying to bully a bunch of different election officials into changing their election outcome. I think that he tried to use a whole fake elector strategy where he was submitting fake electors to certify like an incorrect electoral college vote. And I think he tried to get Vice President Pence to unilaterally throw back the election so that he'd be declared the winner.
I'd agree with you on the latter point, the final point completely. That did seem to be what that was. However, I would have some contentions with the previous points because I think that was when it came down to Pence, that was Trump like looking for any way out at the end of it, you know. The other points, though, I would say I think you need to evidence them pretty severely. And I don't have, I didn't prepare for this. I just saw your tweet and I was like, hey, let's talk about it because I'm willing to have my mind changed on this. I would need to see evidence that, and I think that unfortunately the evidence you're going to have to provide is solipsistic. You need to provide me with evidence that you can know what's going on inside of Trump's brain, which is not necessarily difficult because I think we can probably figure out what Trump's thinking many times reasonably. But it's difficult to say that, for example, like, so he's actually not been officially, impeached. They've tried twice, but he's not been impeached. He's gone through impeachment proceedings twice, but he has not been impeached. So if the courts couldn't provide the evidence for it, then I think you have to start going into solipsism and going into what you think is going on inside of Trump's head, and that I think is a difficult contention.
So so he was impeached twice, but we're not talking about the impeachments here. That's not something I'm looking at right now. For the congressional stuff, I'm just looking at conduct on January 6th, reportings from the January 6th Select Committee, and then the all of the information contained in the indictments for Trump's behavior leading up to and around that.
Sure. So what would you say is, so your contention is you don't think that he should be allowed to run again, correct? Not
even that. I'm just looking at, like, do I think he tried to coup the election? I don't think he should be allowed to run again, but I think that's a secondary claim.
Let's just look at that, that he tried to coup the election. Okay, we'll just focus on that. What is your evidence for, because his speech, he said, go and peacefully protest. That's what he said, yes?
Well, he also said fight like hell, but...
Well, that again, this is solipsistic. I think that's putting a lot of meaning in there, that when, you know for a fact that I can pull out dozens of examples of Democrats saying go and fight like hell in elections.
Sure. And if they said that, I'd say that it would be wrong too. But I'm not looking at every Democrat right now. I'm just looking at Donald Trump's conduct and what his goal was to overturn the election.
Is it not in the case of, when we're talking about politics, in the sense that fight doesn't necessarily mean, as many Democrats have used the word fight in terms of fighting electoral, to go get votes out, that is colloquially used not as a physical fight.
Maybe none of my stuff is relying heavily on just that speech, though.
Okay. Well, then what would it be on, if it's Trump's own words?
So the first prong is him trying to bully state election officials to flip their election results. I think as Trump was losing court case after court case, Trump was making phone calls. The most famous one was to Raffensperger in Georgia,
yes,
where he was making claims that he knew, he should have known at that point, were false, over and over and over again, to try to say that, like, listen, all of this is rigged, it's not fair, even though he was losing all these cases in court, even though he had no good reason to believe these things, in an effort to get these state officials to change their election results, which I would argue is defrauding the people of those states out of their rightful vote.
Unfortunately, I have to do the whataboutism, though, because the Democrats have done that as well in previous elections. They did that.
Well, the Democrats might have, but for the very first thing. So then, do you agree that Trump did it, and now we want to see if Democrats did it? Or?
Yeah, of course he did it.
Okay,
because
so if Trump did it,
but if he believed, and if anyone believes that there is problems with the election, then I do believe also, whether they're Democrat, Republican, I don't care. If you think there are issues with the counting of votes, then I don't care what side it is. They should seek out to investigate the legitimacy of that election.
Yeah, but the problem was he did seek out to investigate. All of his investigations came back with all of the investigators telling him there was nothing. And then he tried to get remedy in the courts, and all the courts said there was nothing. Do you think you should be allowed to infinitely disrupt the election process if everybody's telling you that everything you're looking for is not happening?
That's legal. That's how the law works. Yeah, you should be able to do it instantly, and until you get put with a
Well, to be clear, it's not legal. You can't make knowingly false statements to get people to contravene people's rights.
How do you know? So knowingly false means that you are presuming, and this is the legalistic term, that he must also know that it's a false statement.
Correct.
And that's a difficult thing. And that's a difficult thing to prove.
No, it's not.
Does Trump know it? Does Trump know it's false? That's where I think it does get difficult to prove.
Well, you acknowledge that in the U.S. criminal court system, we prove people's state of mind all the time. It's necessary for a lot of criminal convictions, right? So I think the proof, to speak to Donald Trump's state of mind, would be that he trusted people to do investigations into the election, and he asked these people to do investigations, and all of these people that he asked over and over again kept telling him, hey, this isn't true, hey, this is false, hey, we looked into this, there's nothing. I think that if Trump is requesting information from these people, he obviously trusts them to some extent to do the investigations. If he's made these same requests to all of these people and all of them are telling the same thing, I think it's pretty obvious that he knows that there's probably nothing here.
And are you sure?
Yes.
I think that's a big leap in logic to make. Because, and this is just like, I'm a libertarian. You've been on my show once before. I've been on yours before when I was drunk and high, but I'm not this time. What I would say is that I don't trust people to tell the truth on these kinds of things. Even Trump's personal confidants have betrayed him in the past. So I would very openly have done so. So because someone says something doesn't necessarily make it true. Truth is evidenced via data, not via someone's... Now, yes, in the court of law, of course, someone's testimony does matter. It does, obviously. But I think that why would you request that the data be looked over so that it can be examined? The same thing that was done in the 2000 election, for example, with George Bush, right?
Well, hold on. Wait, to be clear, so before we go to anything else.
Sure.
So Trump asked people to investigate. They investigated. They said we found nothing. Trump continued to repeat the exact same claims that had been investigated and turned up nothing. What?
As did Al Gore.
We're not looking at the Gore-Bush stuff. We can go to that later.
I know, but what I'm saying is that why is... hang on. I think that actually is prescient here, because why is Al Gore not being put under all of these charges the way that Trump is? If we're going to treat the law equally, as it should be applied
how did he break the law? What law did he break?
I don't think either one of them broke the law.
Well, Trump is being charged with breaking laws, though. For instance,
what law has he broken?
Well, it depends on which case we're looking at.
14th Amendment, for the right? Or not 14th,
no, for the well, it depends on what court case we're looking
14th
at.
would be different.
But for the Jack Smith indictment, right? He's being accused of essentially defrauding the American public, right? That he's trying to contravene the right to vote by telling lies and to engage in a conspiracy, essentially to.
How is he contravening the right to vote versus what's happened in Colorado and Maine recently?
Because Colorado and Maine's rulings are attempting to adhere to the laws on the books, to the 14th Amendment.
Of removing your capacity, the voter's capacity to vote for anyone but one party.
No, by disqualifying somebody based on a qualifier to run for president. For instance, your age is a qualifier, or being a naturalized or in the United States citizen is a qualifier, or yeah.
Sure, and I would agree with that, obviously. But the difference is that if Trump is made the GOP the nominee, which he will be, that's inevitable, and they've already disqualified him from the vote, it means that the presidential election of 2024 will inevitably mean that there's a one-party state vote or one-party vote.
Well, why would you nominate somebody who's disqualified from running for president?
Why do they disqualify him in these states?
Well, the disqualification argument comes from Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that says that if you're a prior oath taker in the United States and you engage in insurrection, that you're not allowed to hold office again.
So we have to then prove that it was that he engaged in insurrection. This goes back to the Civil War, right? We know where this amendment comes from.
Sure. That's the argument that I'm making right now, though. The question of whether Trump asking the vice president to change the election results, or whether they filed false electors in 7 states in order to misrepresent the electoral votes of those states, or for Trump pressuring election officials using knowingly lying to them in order to get them to change the vote. These are all part of a attempt to, coup the government.
I would agree with you on the Pence thing. That one has always rubbed me.
Well, if you agree with me on the Pence thing,
way.
isn't that on its own then enough to say that he was engaged in?
No, I would not say it's enough in and of itself. I need more evidence than that to show that it was an intentional attempt at insurrection, which is what we're trying to prove here, right? In order for this to count in the 14th Amendment, that Trump cannot be allowed to run because he engaged in insurrection, I think you need a really strong amount of evidence for that.
You just said that evidence for not like multiple attempts. It's engaged in insurrection or rebellion. You don't think that trying to get the vice president of the United States to unilaterally change the election result doesn't count as either of those, or?
I think that what he was trying to get Pence to do, and this is my opinion, but I do think that, and again, you can have different opinions on this because this is also again solipsistic. Was he?
Why do you keep saying solipsistic?
That means mind reading.
I understand, but like you keep saying that, like you have to ascertain intent all the time in U.S. criminal courts. Yes. There's nothing novel about this. We always do that.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So
go. But that's my point, is that you're going to have to figure out, what did he mean with what he said to Pence? Did he mean to tell Pence to just overturn the election without any concern? Or did he mean to tell him to recheck the votes, to actually check
He didn't tell him to recheck the votes. He told him that, and he tweeted as much.
He said he'll find them. I saw that, yes. And it does look that way.
Yeah, and when he told him to do it and Pence said he can't, Trump says to Pence, "You're too honest." I mean, what do we think Trump means?
I mean, true. I told you I'm here to have my mind changed. Sure. I don't talk to you unless I'm willing to have my mind changed.
Yeah, I understand. I feel like the vice president stuff alone, if we believe that was like a rebellion or insurrection attempt to try to get the vice president to change the outcome of the election on his own, like it's pretty obvious he wasn't trying to do this in any legal way. There's a reason why Pence rejected it.
Well, I also think Pence is disloyal. But however,
Pence is disloyal. Disloyal to what?
Disloyal to Trump.
What is Pence supposed to be loyal to?
I think he should be loyal to the American people first and foremost.
Nope.
And I think that's where he should be. Yes, he should be loyal to the American people.
Absolutely not. Your first and foremost loyalty is to the United States Constitution. That's what you swear an oath to. It's the U.S. Constitution, right?
Which is made by the American people.
Sure, that's fine. But I'm just saying that the Constitution is what you swear an oath to.
So Trump, we're splitting hairs.
Sure, maybe. Well, no, because if you could say if the people wanted Trump, he should have been loyal to the people. Goal is not to the people. It's to the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution says you can't do something, and Pence says I'm not doing it, and that's what he cited the whole time. And he was most likely correct. He can't do that. I don't know how we'd say that Pence is disloyal. I would argue Pence was incredibly loyal. He was loyal to the oath that he took to serve the U.S. Constitution.
maybe. I have to think about that. I'm not sure about that one. Was he loyal to the U.S. Constitution? By the letter, probably. Yes, I think that's probably accurate. At the same time, I think you do also have loyalty to people within who you've sworn personal loyalty to, fealty to. Now, I'm a monarchist, so I might use words.
Sure, you don't swear loyalty or fealty to the president of the United States.
I think you should.
That's great, but we don't. That's not the system we live under.
I know, but that's my perspective. I do think that Trump, or that Pence was a little disloyal to Trump from my perspective. That being said, I also think, as I've said, I agree with that Trump kind of like pressuring Pence to certify or decertify states that's the worst and the most egregious evidence that you can say that Trump engaged in insurrection.
What about when Trump and his friends all got a group of electors in 7 different states to all falsely claim that they were the state's duly chosen electors, that they had convened at courthouses that they didn't, or state houses that they didn't, and then to transmit those electoral votes to Congress to try to cause confusion and hope that Congress would choose their votes instead of the actual electoral votes? You don't think that's that
was scuffed as well.
Oh, not scuffed. No, not scuffed.
No. That's fucked. It's beyond. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to downplay it. I agree.
But then why not? Then when he calls election officials and he says like, "Hey guys, I need you to change the vote. We just need to find these votes," and he's repeating claims that every single person around him has said are false.
He did say that. He said we need to find the votes, and I completely agree that looks terrible on him. Okay, so let's. I actually do not. I'm not one of these like people who totally goes hard against 2020 necessarily being legitimate, because I think that 2020 probably was legitimate. I think for a bunch of psychological reasons it was legitimate. Why people voted for Joe Biden over Trump, because it was nailed into their heads for 4 years that Trump was Satan. And I actually think that the 2020 election probably was legitimate. What I don't think is part of this attempt to make Trump. If Trump did all these things, which need to be proven, and he has said them, we have evidence that he said it, that might be able to disqualify him.
Well, to be clear, I'm not even at the disqualification part yet. I just am trying to get to the coup part right now.
Right, let's get to that. Yeah. Right, so that part, I would say, I think that's some really, really bad stuff that looks horrible on him in terms of both Pence and in terms of the electors. That makes him look guilty as sin. The part I don't agree with is that he incited the insurrection or that it was an insurrection on January 6th. That's the part where I hold my contentions with.
Okay, what were all the people there for?
Well, my mom was there. My aunt was there. A bunch of my
why did they go?
Were there. Because they supported Trump.
Exactly. So Trump called the people there, number one. We agree with that, right?
But did they go there to...
We're not there yet. I'm just saying, like, why were the people there? Sure. They were all there because Trump wanted them to be there, right? Okay. So number one, they went... Okay.
Agreed.
So where did Trump send them after his speech? Where did he say to go?
He said, go to the Capitol.
Yep. And when they went to make your voices heard and to encourage Pence to do the right thing, what were they protesting at the Capitol?
I think they... What do you want them to do? And this is...
I want them to follow legal processes in the United States to seek remedy for injury. That's what I want them to do.
But do you think the actual intent of this rabble, of this mob, let's call them a mob, I'm fine with that terminology, this mob of people who have been emotionally invested, was to actually overthrow the government?
Yeah.
Do you think that's actually what they thought they were going to do?
When they were chanting 1776, what were they referring to?
Well, I mean, obviously revolution, but...
Wait, revolution? Revolution of what? Against the government. That's what revolution is, right? Yeah. So if they went down there and Trump was tweeting out that Pence can overturn the election, and he sent all these people down to the Capitol, and they all marched down there saying 1776, what are they going down there to do?
I thought that it was to make their voices heard, to make it shown that this is that we the people stand for something. I don't
stand
think
for
it was
what?
The contention is that the point was that they were going to overthrow and usurp the government. Do you think that these random people in their stupid little Viking hats had any capacity to do that?
No, they were relying on Trump to do it, which is what he tried to do.
I just find that I think that it was a manifestation and a physical representation of the American liberty spirit. Right? I don't think it was actually.
But it wasn't the American liberty. Hold on. To be clear, it wasn't American liberty. It was anti-American rebellion and treason none of this was American. Protesting the certification of an election and chanting for the vice president to be hung because the president of the United States told the vice president to unilaterally change the vote is about as anti-liberty or anti-American as you can get. So I don't know how you can say there's a manifestation of liberty of the American spirit. In what sense?
I would fundamentally disagree with that.
Fundamentally disagree with which part?
That it's not a manifestation of liberty, because if the people believe, now here's the thing, you can disagree and you can say that the people are wrong, but if the people believe that their rights are being trampled upon, that's what they believe, and it doesn't matter who incited it at the end of the day. I mean, maybe it does legalistically, that we've covered that a little bit, but if the people believe that their rights are being trampled upon, then they're trying to restore what they believe is their liberty, their rights, their freedoms. Then yes, that's what I think that a lot of people at Jan 6 were trying to do. They thought that the election had been stolen from them. They thought that their rights and liberties were being trampled upon.
Wouldn't this argument mean that literally every single protest or demonstration then is a manifestation of liberty? Was all of BLM rioting and protesting a manifestation of liberty? Because they thought
I think much of it was. Not all of it.
Okay, I mean, you can say that, but then now we've like reduced this to meaninglessness. If everybody is protesting, thinks they're in the right, well, of course. But the reality is the people that were protesting the certification of the vote. That's part of our democratic process, is sometimes people we don't like win, and you certify the vote for them. You can't just protest because you lose an election, because you think your rights are being taken from you, and now you're going to protest.
I think you can protest if you think that there are serious issues with the election, which at that time, on January 6th, the entirety of the evidence had not come out yet, right? We hadn't had these investigations. So it was
they had been investigated to Trump. That's what I'm saying. Trump incited it. I don't necessarily hold the people there as responsible, but Trump definitely incited them to go there. It was Trump's fault that they were there. We said the reason why all those people were there was because Trump called them to be, and then he sent them to the Capitol to go and protest, and they all went down there screaming 1776.
I think they're allowed to be there in protest. And by the way, I think they should have been. I don't think anyone should have been arrested if they didn't. The guy who shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk, yeah, arrest him. Okay, whatever. You know, people who.
Well, if you're in the Capitol building, you're not allowed to be there. Or if you're crossing barricades and you're trespassing.
But you are allowed to be there. It's the people's house. And
it's not. Hold on. It's not the people's house. You're not allowed to be in the Capitol when there are barricades up and they tell you cannot come in.
But you also know that the cops allowed them in.
The cops didn't allow them in. We've seen the footage. They broke in. Where did wait? Where was the first breach? Was it the cops letting them in? The second or third or fourth breach? Was it the cops letting them in? The only time cops were moving barricades is when they were already completely breached on both sides and they were retreating back up to more defensible positions. Yeah,
I agree. So, but hang on. So people start breaking in. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. First, people start breaking in. That's true. Then the cops start opening the barricades and letting people in.
The cops were retreating to more defensible positions because they were overwhelmed.
Destiny, I know you've seen the footage of them standing there and actually walking the people through.
Yes,
you have to
I've seen the Tucker Carlson videos. There are a couple videos of them walking. Hold on, real quick, before I acknowledge that. Have you seen the videos of them fighting with, screaming at, pushing, shoving, breaking open windows, breaking down doors, flooding? You've seen those videos, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you've seen those videos, and then you've also seen videos of cops that sometimes lead people through to other cops, what is the implication here? Do you think that some of them are being led through and a whole bunch of them are being violent, or what is the implication?
I'm very curious, though, about why were they... So okay, hang on. I have to try and process this. Your contention is that the police were afraid, so they were acquiescing to the mob? That's why they let them through?
No, the statements that the police have made, that's true of every single large riot or mob control unit ever, is sometimes you don't fight every single person at every single doorway. Sometimes you lead them into easier to control areas. There was videos of some guys being led into like the Senate chambers where they were locked in. Or there were videos of that black police officer going up the stairs and pushing the one dude and leading him up to 4 or 5 other cops, rather than expecting one cop to try to fight off a whole mob at a doorway. Yeah, that's what happened in every single one of these videos. In every single one of these videos, yeah.
It just seems to me that it would be an more easily defensible position to fire tear gas onto the crowd, which they did as well, rather than allow them into the building where they were able to walk through cordoned hallways.
How did they first get into the building? They broke in. They were already in the building.
Some of them did. Some of them didn't. Some of them were, again, they opened the doors and walked them through. They walked
after the Capitol had already been breached.
Okay.
So they can't fight. They don't have the manpower. Do you acknowledge they don't have the manpower to fight off that crowd with the people they had available to them?
Those people did not have guns. People in the crowd did not have guns.
First of all, people in the crowd probably did have guns, number one.
Maybe.
Number
but
two,
were any of them
but number
used,
two,
so we don't have any evidence for that.
Well, the evidence we have is that when Donald Trump was giving his speech, there were people with guns outside that weren't allowed in because the Secret Service wouldn't let them in. And Trump is on record saying, "Let them in. They're my people. They're cool. They're not going to shoot me. Let them in." And he sent that same crowd of people marching over to the White House. So we know at the very least there were guns at his.
Did he say that? There's evidence. I've not
Yep.
seen that Trump said specifically, "Let them in."
Yep. To his speech, led them into his speech, where he was giving the speech before he sent everybody over to the Capitol building.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that Trump knew that they were fired. Okay, so number one.
All right.
Number two, I understand they have guns, but you understand that, like, police officers can't just start shooting into crowds of people. That would be, like, mayhem, right?
Well, I mean, they did.
No, they didn't.
They shot Ashley Babbitt in the throat.
They shot one person that was trying to climb through a door that was like a last stand area, yes, but that's not shooting into crowds of people, right?
I'm just saying that it's.
Hold on. Do you understand that
they did utilize the weapons to kill some people?
No. It was one person.
They did.
Your initial claim was that they should have shot the crowds outside instead of retreating to more defensible positions. My claim is that they did retreat. Yeah, and sometimes doors open or barricades move.
Didn't make that
but
claim.
they retreated all the way back to where they were at last stand mode. And then, yes, when one crazy woman tried to climb through the door after being screamed down not to, she got shot. Yes.
But then they let other people into the. Okay, first of all, hang on. Let's go back. Let's calm down. Let's go back. I did not claim that they should have shot the people. I said tear gas, which they used, also,
which didn't work.
Which they used,
yep.
And didn't work. It's correct. Is that you should use non-lethal force. With Ashley Babbitt at the door, I don't know the actual order of events, and maybe you do, and I don't. Was Ashley Babbitt shot before or after they started letting people walk through the building? I don't know the order of events on that.
It's a big building. Just because people were walking through some parts of the building doesn't mean they were being escorted to lawmakers. That never happened.
The area that Ashley they were let into the building, and you can see the footage of them just walking peacefully in between the cordons.
Not where the lawmakers were. Never. The area that Ashley Babbitt was trying to crawl into. Wait, do you disagree with that? Do you think they were being escorted to lawmakers?
No, they weren't.
Okay.
I agree.
The area that Ashley Babbitt
the
area that Ashley Babbitt was trying to crawl into was not an area where protesters were. That's why there were multiple Secret Service people, I believe it's Secret Service, or Metropolitan Police that were there with guns telling her, don't come through, and then she tried to break through and they shot her.
Yeah. Well, okay, so these are different areas. And again, this is part of the problem is that a lot of this gets confused. In that it's difficult to sometimes parse what happened where. And
well, hold on, wait. Just to be clear, it's not. There's footage and everything available for all of it. The only difficulty is when people try to confuse or mislead for what happened. If you have a question about anything I'm saying, I can point you to evidence, or I can explain exactly what's happening at all points in time from 2 o'clock to 6:30 when this whole thing's happening. None of this is confusing. It's only confusing when other people try to make it confusing.
Well, and I'm trusting your judgment. I'm trusting that you're telling me the truth here. So I'm not. These are the things that I know, and maybe my knowledge is incorrect, and it's certainly incomplete. But because I think that most people's knowledge is incomplete. But if you say that you know exactly where Ashley Babbitt was versus where the other people who were walking through the cordons was, then okay, I'll take your best judgment on that. I just find it to be, it looks from an outsider perspective, and I think you could probably try to understand why it looks to outsiders really suspicious, all of it. It looks very strange to people who are just looking at this.
No, literally none of it looks suspicious. All of it is like super easy to understand and follow the entire time. What part looks suspicious or strange?
The Capitol Police waving people into the building looks weird.
Every single riot that we saw for the BLM stuff never involved huge groups of cops shooting and killing all the protesters. It always involved cops shepherding or herding or cordoning off people into other. That's riot like tactics 101. You don't start fighting the crowd.
That seems.
That seems what? Hold on. Do you think that what I just said is not true? This is riot. No. I can bring in riot police if you want to talk about. This is riot police 101. Yeah.
You're right. I remember seeing that I think in Oregon when a bunch of those riots they did this stuff. I remember seeing the exact same stuff. Yes, it's true. On that section. However, I also saw a bunch of riot shields set up and a bunch more tear gas being used. So I find it a little bit suspicious. However, it also, I would agree, it's not completely unheard of for this to happen. Because I've seen it in Oregon and I think in Portland. they did this. At least I've seen the footage. Similarly, when
Do you-
there was a BLM thing in
sure.
Portland, I
So
think,
let's-
where they went and
here's a,
stormed the Capitol. Yeah.
Sure. So like here's we can run this down. We can do this live if you want. Also, I'm totally welcome this. If we were to go through footage of the J6 stuff, and you were to look at what the front lines of that riot looked like, do you think there was ever a point there where police were going to stop those people from getting into the Capitol building?
I think if the police wanted to, yeah, they absolutely could have. But would they? And that's what was your contention, which I agree with. They probably would not want to because, well, you know how that would play out. We all know how that would play out. If the police open fire, it's Waco. It's you know, that's a forever.
So when there were like dozens of Capitol Police outside staring down a crowd of what 100,000 people, you think that their defense of the Capitol should have been them shooting into the crowd with their pistols?
No, I don't.
So then what else should they have done? Probably retreat back to the building, to more defensible areas.
I don't think allow people into the building should have been the response. Only because of the implication that it has post facto created, right? I don't know what they were. I don't know the right answer. I don't know the right response because I'm not a police officer, okay? But
the only places where the doors. Actually, and I'm not even sure if were any outside doors even open, or was this just them leading them through the inside of the building?
They led them through the building, and okay, so let's put it this way. I don't know what the correct response is, but I know that waving them through is a bad look. Let's put it that way. Let's just say that it's okay. But
let's pretend let's pretend for 1 second that we're more than just like hyper partisan people, and we're just trying to use our brains instead of just saying that like it's a bad look. What was the alternative?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, hold on, because we're saying that this was bad. So we should be able to conceive of like one alternative. Because I can tell you one alternative that would make them look worse, and that's shooting and killing protesters outside.
Yes.
So we agree they shouldn't have shot and killed them. Okay, so we agreed they shouldn't have killed them. We also agreed that they couldn't hold the line. That like 6 cops against like 1,000 people, so they couldn't shoot them. They couldn't hold the line. So what else should they have done? Because the cops that tried to hold were being crushed at the doors and were screaming, or were pulled into the crowd and tased. Well, like what are the other alternatives?
Yeah, probably. I guess, like I said, this is why I talk to you, Destiny, because I'm interested in your takes, because you're one of a rare number of people who makes me have to rethink things. Yeah, I don't know what they were supposed to do then, I suppose. I think that they're shoot more tear gas would have been my response, I suppose, but it's 1,000 people. You're right. It's 10,000 people.
Or 100,000 according to Trump, but yeah.
Right. Well, it's 10,000 people trying to storm it. It's 100,000 people on the mall, but yeah, it's something like that. 80,000 people. Something like that. It's a lot of people there trying to break into the Capitol. I don't think you can, but how, going back to that though, can you really blame Trump for inciting that action?
Yeah, of course.
I can't.
Trump sent people to the Capitol to protest the peaceful transfer of power. If there was anything that I could
storm the Capitol.
Did he say storm the Capitol? No, but he said we need to go back to the Capitol. We can't let them steal our election. That we hope that Pence does the right thing. And then later he tweeted out that Pence failed us. That's why everybody was outside screaming, hang Pence, hang Pence. He said we need to fight like hell to keep our government. We've been fighting like one boxer with a hand tied behind his back. Like, I mean, what are we going to the Capitol to protest? The only thing happening is the certification of the vote. What else is there to protest there besides the government process of certification of the election? The vote had already happened. We're going to lose our country, I think is a quote. Fighter, we're going to lose our country.
Yes, that was, yeah, I remember that one. Yep.
So what does that mean? So are you just going to go hold up a picket sign while you lose your country?
Well, I mean, that's the democratic process, isn't it? Go hold up a picket sign. And I think that people, look, I think part of it is that the J6 stuff came after the Summer of Love, right? Where, as you know, it was extremely violent, quote unquote, protests, where people did just break shit down. They broke into buildings, they broke into stores, they just ransacked everything. I think that it was the political climate at the time, and the existing, still probably extant political climate, that has made people believe incorrectly that is a legitimate form of protest. Let's say that Trump
didn't want a riot there. Okay, let's go with that. If that was the case, then why is it that when so many people went into the office begging him to send in the National Guard earlier, why didn't he respond?
He that up hardcore.
No, he didn't fuck it up. It was intentional. Why is it that when they begged him to tweet and send people home, why didn't he do that? Why did he just ignore people? Even after
he did tell people. He said he did at one point say to go home though.
Yeah, an hour after Ashley Babbitt had been shot, 3 hours after the riot had begun, and after him, Giuliani and Eastman had made numerous phone calls to congressmen and senators saying like, "Hey, maybe you should delay the election. Hey, maybe you should actually slow things down." Doesn't that seem like he kind of wanted the riot to happen, and he was waiting to try to capitalize on it?
Did Trump want something to happen? Absolutely, that's unquestionable. Trump wanted because he's a narcissist.
No. Hold on. Not just a narcissist. He was an un-American attempted coup president. He tried to coup the government. He wasn't just being a narcissist. Okay, what is it called if you try to subvert the peaceful transfer of power using non-democratic means?
Well, then what would have been called when they accused Trump of being legitimately elected in 2016 because of Russian hackers?
That's your First Amendment right to say Trump was unelected.
But yeah, you can say whatever you want. I'm saying like...
No, hold on. You can't say whatever you want. You can't incite a riot. That's against the law. It's illegal to do that.
Inciting a riot is against the law, but Trump never said to go and riot.
You don't have to say go and riot. The qualifications for that to be a crime, no, you don't, is you have to send people to an area with the intent of them going to riot. That's what makes it incitement to...
But when you say specifically, which is his exact quote, is peacefully protest. He said the word peacefully.
Peaceful is one word out of an hour-long speech. The rest of that speech is littered with... I think
you're going to you're going to be really difficult to prove that in a court of law.
No, it's super not difficult at all.
Well, then why has it not been proven yet? After two indictments.
Trump is indicted in 2 huge cases. The impeachments were not the criminal proceedings that Jack Smith or the Georgia RICO case are looking at. We'll find out, I guess, in the Jack Smith case.
The RICO case will be the interesting one, I think. That'll be the one to actually really pay attention to, because the RICO case would be the one that probably has the most merit behind it.
I think the Jack Smith case is really strong, and the Florida case is dead to rights. Trump is losing that one 10 out of 10 times. The Mar-a-Lago confidential information case, he's completely dead on that one.
Yeah. There's some stuff in there that's pretty... I just don't... I think that it's incidental more than intentional, and I think you have to prove intent.
Well, that's to charge a riot, I agree, but keep in mind, he's not looking at a riot charge. Right? That's not what he's being charged with, right? He's being charged with trying to defraud the American people by subverting their constitutional rights to have a vote and obstructing a government process, which he absolutely did. And I think we can point to everything around that. He obviously wanted to obstruct the certification of the vote. That's why he sent the rioters down there. That's why he told them to fight like hell. That's why he was tweeting at Pence. That's why he watched it unfold on TV. Ashley Babbitt got shot. He didn't tell anybody to go home. He didn't call in the National Guard. He just sat there and watched it unfold. And all he did was he made calls with Giuliani and Eastman at that time, begging, senators and people in Congress to stop.
Which is fucked up of him.
No. That's not fucked up. It was an attempt to coup the government. It wasn't just fucked up. It was all intentional. It was all an attempt to coup the government.
I think that both people on the left and the right, or wherever you fall on the political spectrum, have a tendency to think Trump is way smarter than he actually is.
It's not about being smart. It's just, what is he doing? Not as smart.
I don't think he was playing 4D chess at this point.
No one is saying he's playing 4D chess. He sent rioters to the Capitol, and he tried to make phone calls, and he asked Pence to change the vote. There's nothing smart about that. You don't have to be a sophisticated actor to do this.
The idea that he was sitting on this, that you were saying that he was sitting on it, he knew about all this, and he was sitting on it and just waiting for
No, when I say sitting, I mean he was sitting in his room, drinking a Diet Coke, watching it unfold on TV.
Yeah, and eating McDonald's. Yeah, but I don't know if he was... I think he was reacting, because that's how people
If he was reacting, why wouldn't his reaction be, oh... I'm the person that deploys the National Guard to D.C. Maybe I need to call and find out why that's not happening. As all these people are begging him, Ivanka and Kushner and Meadows and his counsel and all these other people are calling him. I think McCarthy, calls him and he's like, hey, what's going on here? And Trump's like, I guess the protesters are more mad than you are about the election results, right? What is this all selling us? Trump is mad as he wants these people to stop certifying the vote so that he can retain his position as president.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Which is a coup.
I don't think that makes it a coup. I think that a coup is a very strong term.
Yeah, I agree. But what Trump did was probably the worst thing that any president, save for maybe, I guess, the Civil War, has probably done to the American people in U.S. history.
If you looked into FDR, jeez. I think what FDR did was way worse. But
what did FDR do to coup the government?
I didn't coup the government, just I don't like FDR. I won't get
not liking FDR is different than did somebody try to coup the government or subvert the peaceful transfer of power. Yeah.
I know. This is an aside. Do I think he intentionally tried to? But that's it comes down always, like I said, when I kept using the word solipsism, it was for a purpose. It's because I think you have to prove intent.
You do.
And proving intent in a court of law is it does happen all the time, but it's very difficult.
It's not.
You're going to have to, it is.
You can prove it with
difficult.
circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial evidence is circumstantial. You're going to have to prove intent.
What do you think DNA evidence is? DNA evidence of a crime is circumstantial evidence. A rape kit is circumstantial evidence. What do you mean? We prove intent all the time. Yeah.
No, let me put it this way, right? So I watch true crime stuff all the time because I'm a woman, obviously. So I was watching this case the other day that I had heard about before, where this girl who had been horribly abused by her mother went and hooked up with some dude on the internet, and then they killed her mom together, right? The way that you have to prove intent in that case is that you go through and find all these DMs between them saying, "I want you to kill my mom."
No,
that's a really easy way to prove intent.
You don't need a confession. That's a silver bullet, but you don't need a confession to prove intent. That would be an extraordinarily lucky find.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, we can look at Trump's actions. He's watching the riot break out. He hears that Ashley Babbitt gets shot. It's delivered on a little piece of paper that he lets sit on his desk. He's not doing anything to stop it, and all he's doing while the riot is unfolding is continuing to try to subvert the electoral process to hold on to power. That is a coup. The Capitol building, where the election is being certified, is literally under attack by people. He's not doing anything to stop the process. If anything, he's trying to capitalize on the chaos by getting people to delay the certification of the vote. That is a coup. It's an attempted coup.
I think using the word coup is dangerous.
Why?
However,
I think what Trump did is dangerous. And I think people trying to make excuses for him is dangerous. This is an attempted coup.
Maybe. No, maybe you're right. Because I see what you're saying, and I agree with the premise of it. However, I think that it does require some mind reading. I do think it requires some mind reading.
What would we need to show that Trump's goal was to coup the government? Besides a confession, or do you need a confession?
I need a confession.
So
I think I need a confession.
That's it. So in any other criminal case, would you require this standard of evidence? You need a confession.
Good question. I might probably not.
Why would this be the only criminal case in all of U.S. history where we need a confession to prove state of mind?
Okay, good question. That's because that's where I would want it to be. I would want a confession from it.
So then, as the president, you can try to coup the government over and over again, but as long as you don't confess to it, then nobody can ever catch you on it or charge you with it, or...
No, it's not what I'm saying. No, I think you're right. That was a good point. I think... oh, thank you. My husband brought me some cheese. I think we probably need to... Yeah, that's probably that is unfair, because no one else would be held to that standard. That is the standard that I'm holding Trump to, and so that is unfair. Yep.
I feel like
I came in here to have my mind changed, man.
That's fine.
Like I said.
Okay. I'm curious then. Okay, so then outside of this, this was an attempted coup. It's pretty obvious. I think that his actions on the 6th...
I disagree with the terminology.
What would you describe... how would you describe the attempted disruption of the peaceful transfer of power?
I think it was libertas. It was people feeling as if their liberty had been violated. I'm talking
about Donald Trump specifically, not a protester.
Trump, okay, not the protesters. Donald Trump specifically? Oh, well, Trump is an opportunist. So, yeah, I think he...
Sure, he used the opportunity to coup the government. But it wasn't just an opportunity. He created this opportunity, right? He took advantage of the opportunity that he created. We said that all the people were there because of Trump. He asked them to go there to protest. Then he brought them to a speech, and then he riled them all up, and then he sent them all down to the courthouse.
I don't think he sent them there, though. I think you'd be very hard-pressed to try and find direct evidence that he sent them there to overthrow the government. That's what I think
said we need to fight like hell. We need to keep our government. They're going to take it from you.
But I can send you a clip of 20 different Democrats saying fight like hell.
We're not talking about 20 different Democrats, though. If you want to say Trump tried to coup the government and then Democrats did too, we can move to the Democrats as well.
You're saying the phraseology, fight like hell.
No, I'm not.
Indictment.
I'm not just saying the one phrase, fight like hell. It was an hour-long speech. In the entirety of the speech, he talked about how the election had been rigged and stolen, that we're losing our country, that Republicans weren't doing what was necessary, that Pence hopefully stood up for the country, did what he needed to do, that we need to keep fighting, we're going to lose our country, they're stealing it from you. All of this stuff that was said. The fight like hell thing doesn't actually even matter. It's not even the most important part of the speech. The whole speech was him talking about
what? It keeps being brought up in the legal arguments. It keeps being brought up. The fight like hell thing keeps being brought up in the legal arguments.
No, I don't think so. The legal arguments doesn't rely on
make it important.
The legal argument doesn't rely on fight like hell at all. It relies on all the other circumstantial around this. That like
well, there's more than it, obviously, but I do every time I've looked at any of these documents, which hasn't been sporadic to be fair. I've seen the fight like hell thing brought up over and over, that this was a direct incitement to violence.
None of the indictments are trying to charge him with incitement. None of the indictments are looking at inciting to a riot or anything.
It was initially. It's not now.
I'm not aware of any charges relating to incitement to riot.
In terms of it wasn't in the actual indictment, but it was part of the argumentation.
Oh, somebody might have argued. I'm just going by the legal, like the indictments that were
right. No, it's not. It's not in the actual charges, but it's in the legal argumentation. Now, I don't know if I haven't kept up on all the cases since then, but it's part of their argument, or it was. Maybe they've dropped it. Like I said, I haven't heard it recently because I think that they know that it's a losing argument. The fight like hell thing is a losing argument.
It's not just the fight like hell thing though. It's all of the other parts of the speech and everything else.
I got you. Yeah.
I mean, like the false electors, him trying to delay the certification of the vote, begging Pence, like all of this plays into the same scheme of like trying to delay the certification of the vote. Or like, let's say in your world, do we believe that Trump tried to do the false electors, tried to get Pence to unilaterally toss the vote? He was doing those two things, but then coincidentally at the same time, he sent a bunch of protesters to the Capitol that he hoped were just peaceful the whole time while he was trying to coup it from the inside.
I really, this coup attempt thing, I really think you're going to have to prove that.
Prove which part do I need to prove?
That he intended to overthrow the United States government.
That's what he was trying to do with Pence.
I find that's a leap to me.
It's a leap that if you ask the vice president, hey, can you unilaterally throw out some of these votes and then make me the president? That's a leap to assume that that's like a coup attempt?
In the context in which I think that Trump was perceiving things, yeah, it might be a leap. Because he thought that the election was rigged.
Even if you thought the election was rigged, you can't have the vice president throw out the election results because you thought it was rigged. That would still be a coup.
I think you're going to see this year, by the way. I think we're going to see this. We're going to throw out votes that don't vote for the Democrats. I think it's going to happen.
I don't know if that's ever happened before.
And I'm very, very much just anticipating stuff here. It's just complete speculation. Because I think that... I hate the whole oligarchy that exists in the United States. I think they're going to do the same stuff. And let's not get twisted on it. They did this in 2016. Yes?
What did they? No, nobody did anything like this in 2016.
What are you talking about? Yeah, they did. They said that Trump was elected by that all of the votes for Trump were from Russian hackers.
First of all, nobody said that. But secondly, you have a First Amendment right to say that if you want to.
You have the First Amendment right to say, which all of these journalistic outlets did. But it's very different, right, isn't it? It's different to say that, like, yeah, okay, well, we're just going to claim...
Hold on. Do you think that Donald Trump is being charged with tweeting things or saying bad things publicly?
No.
Okay. No. So if we agree that these cases are similar, where are the Democrats that were trying to pressure election officials to change their tabulated votes?
Arizona?
What was the conversation or call where a Democrat was...
I'm talking about a totally different election in Arizona.
Yeah, in 2016, Hillary Clinton was calling Arizona saying, listen, you need to ignore
not in Arizona. In 2018. Or 2020, yeah.
In 2020. What about 2020?
What was the Arizona election that got all f***ed up, where there were all kinds of votes that were called into question?
None of these were called into question. Trump said they were, but I don't believe any of these were.
Trump said they were, but did you not look into it? You had to have.
The courts looked into it, and that's why he lost every single case except for one.
No, I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about local elections.
I'm not talking about local elections. I'm talking about presidential elections.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry. So I switched my target to talking about local elections. So that's my bad. That there have been issues with voter identification.
Hold on. Wait. I don't know if that's even true, but regardless, hold on. Earlier, we said that the claim that Democrats were saying that they felt like that Russians had stolen the election, which, by the way, I would contest that those claims were even made in the way you said they were. But let's say they were, even if I grant that. This isn't what Trump is being accused of making claims like this. His charges have to do with trying to pressure state election officials to change the vote. Democrats making claims about Russia collusion is not trying to them contact and call election officials to change the vote.
Okay, you're right. They are not the same thing. However, are they not if you're faking votes in some way, let's just give it there, I guess. And that's what they believe. That's what the Republicans believe, which they do. That the Democrats have faked votes or have harvested votes.
Yep.
And they've done all this stuff. Then is it not also their right to contend the legitimacy of elections?
It is.
If they truly
believe
that.
The places that they can seek remedy are, one is the courts, which they tried and they failed. And then the second thing is he can make statements publicly if he wants. But no, you're not allowed to coup the government because you're unhappy. Oh, and he's allowed to ask his officials to investigate in the DOJ and the FBI, which he did as well. And they also told him, yeah, sorry, nothing weird here.
Weird how they won't investigate Biden, but yeah.
Weird how who won't investigate Biden?
DOJ?
What do you mean? There's literally a special probe right now on the...
now there is. 3 years into his presidency, yeah. Now there's a probe.
Wait, relating to the documents case?
Yeah.
But what did they need to investigate Biden for that was similar to anything we're talking about right here?
Sorry, I was going off on a tangent just because I don't like Biden.
Hold on. Not liking somebody and investigating or charging them with a crime are two vastly different things.
He's guilty of a ton of crimes. If Trump, we're going to talk about Trump's crimes, and I think Trump is guilty of a lot of crimes, by the way. Biden is as well.
Okay, to be clear, hold on. To be clear, I don't really care. You haven't presented a single analog about what Trump has done to any Democrat so far. If you think Biden has done something that's an analog to Trump, what's one thing that you think counts, or what's one thing that is comparable?
If we're talking just about election fraud?
Sure.
Specifically in that case, I'd be hard-pressed to come up with something that I would say is identical to that. I think there's a lot of things that the Biden family has done that are incomprehensibly evil, but that's a different case, yeah. So it's not identical. Me saying that there's problems, but here's the problem with all of this. Yeah, I don't like things about Trump. There's a lot of things I don't like about Biden. Sure.
To be clear, I'm not talking about anything I like or don't like. I'm just talking about things that are legal and illegal.
So,
yeah.
In terms of the legality, I think Biden has done a whole fucking plethora of illegal shit.
Can we name one thing?
We want to talk about Ukraine. You and I have talked about this before. But
what has he done with Ukraine that's illegal?
He's peddled influence.
Peddled influence how?
It's direct. We're pretty direct evidence at this point. You're not on board with this?
I just don't know when you say peddle influence. What do you mean by peddle influence?
Hunter Biden literally sold his father's name to get him onto the board of Burisma.
Okay, two questions. One, is that illegal?
It's not illegal.
Okay, so then we're not even...
so this is where... Okay, so... Well, all right, okay. That's where we're at. We're clarifying things where legality...
Yeah, I'm only looking at legality right now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're only going at legality, then you're right. Then Biden's done nothing technically illegal.
Okay, and Trump seems to have done quite a few things that are very illegal.
Some things that are very illegal, yeah. If we're just going at legality and not morality, then yeah, then you're correct. Then Trump is the criminal and Biden is not. However, I do think it's a little bit more complicated than that. But that's...
well, sure. I mean, we can get into matters of morality if we want to. The Hunter Biden stuff...
Morality's... Oh, that's a whole bucket of worms, you know.
I mean,
I'm willing to get into it, but, you know.
Sure. Do you have strong feelings about stuff relating to Hunter Biden?
I have strong feelings related to some of the stuff with Ukraine, particularly involving now the U.S. is... Well, not anymore, because the U.S. has stopped funding Ukraine, because we've gone to funding Israel, because no one cares about Ukraine anymore, because Israel, Pakistan... Palestine, Jesus Christ. P words. Because Israel, Palestine has flared up, and old people who had their Ukraine flags, they had to scrape them off their car windows to put on their new Israel flags or their Palestine flags, depending on their personal moral motivation. However, I was very disconcerted with the stuff involving Biden and Ukraine, and you and I have talked about this. We talked about it 2 years ago.
Sure. I'm just curious. Do you have any strong opinions on, just as a quick probe?
Sure.
Do you have any strong feelings about Jared Kushner?
Yeah, I don't like Jared Kushner. And you mean, like, do I think, like, you want me to, like, say something anti-Semitic or something about him? Because he's related to Trump and he's a Jew? No. Or that like, oh, somehow he's influenced Trump? No, I don't think that's actually true. Maybe, on some level.
Have you heard anything about the fact that Jared Kushner was cutting multi-billion-dollar deals for hedge funds that he worked for Saudi Arabia?
Of course he was.
So do we have strong opinions about Jared Kushner and the fact that he was doing official business at the behest of Donald Trump as part of the United States government, that he was one of the chief architects of things like the Abraham Accords, or basically consulting with the Saudis over the assassination of that journal, Khashoggi, whatever the fuck the guy is, the journalist. Yeah. So do we have do we think that the Jared Kushner stuff or the Hunter Biden stuff is worse?
Wow, I'm going to pull a Democrat move. Why is Donald Trump's son-in-law's business the inherent business of Donald Trump? But did Trump put him into that position? Whereas we know directly that Biden put his son Hunter into the position he was in Burisma.
Well, firstly, we're completely opposite. Hunter Biden has no official position in the government at all, and there's no strong proof that Hunter. Hunter Biden has no position in the government, and there's no evidence aside from the big man, that one quote from an email, that Hunter Biden did anything regarding peddling influence with Joe Biden. However, Jared Kushner, yes, was officially working for the United States government on official United States business. Yes.
Well, I'm not shocked by that.
I'm a
little bit shocked then. If
do we think that
that's accurate? I'm taking your word for it. If that's true, then that's
okay. But isn't it kind of weird that we have such strong opinions about Hunter Biden, but we don't know anything about Jared Kushner? Isn't that
maybe,
because he was a senior advisor for Donald Trump. He was one of the big dudes for a lot of the Middle East foreign policy stuff that we had. And that's his son-in-law, and now he works a hedge fund who's cutting way big deals that Hunter Biden could only dream of cutting.
Well, no, maybe that's a good point. I haven't thought about that. I'll have to think about it. Because yeah, well, no, I mean that's fuck, man. I mean, I had not thought about the Jared Kushner stuff in that way. Now, I think it doesn't absolve Joe Biden and Hunter Biden from their stuff, just because that becomes whataboutism. Oh, every politician's corrupt. Yes, and I think that's true. That's why I'm not why I don't believe in democracy. That's why I'm a monarchist, right? So, which necessarily doesn't fix it, but in terms of the corruption and particularly the familial corruption. However, at least it's a little bit more obvious there, a little bit more evident, I suppose. That's the kind of hypothetical upside. Man, I hadn't thought about that about Jared Kushner. That's a good point, though.
I think we're 1 or 2 orders of magnitude larger on the money involved, and he was directly working for Donald Trump as a member of the U.S. government. I don't know, it seems like a lot more. Even outside of the legal stuff, because I don't think Jared Kushner, has necessarily done anything illegal, but if we want to do the moral tests, I feel if Hunter Biden was a senior advisor to Joe Biden, I feel like Republicans would be losing their minds over it.
I mean, that's true. They would be. And I think that's accurate. Well, you know what, dude? I'm going to head out and go play a Dota or some shit for a bit, but
okay.
It's good to talk to you for a minute, and you have given me a lot to think about. Thanks for having me on for a little bit.
Right, listen, also, I know that, obviously I've been, grinding this autistically for, 3 or 4 days, so I have, a ton of information. But, yeah, I appreciate, the...
No. I appreciate having things to think about, because as a conservative and a Trump supporter, you have to... And that's the only way that you get anywhere in this world, right? The only way, politically and philosophically and psychologically, is that you have to engage, because what we have is that people just sit in their echo chambers and just spin, right? So it's nice to have a little conversation, we'll talk and get a different perspective that has given me lots of stuff to talk about or think about.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks, also, listen, if any of your right-wing friends feel strongly about this, feel free to have them throw in.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anyone's online, but take care and have a good rest of your stream. Bye-bye, man.
Have fun. Bye.
Cheers.
How do you deal with intentional stupidity like that from people who don't know better without losing your shit? I'm going back to my 2024 thesis. I don't think that was intentional stupidity. I just think sometimes people just don't know all the facts about things because they're in a kind of a little a epistemic bubble, right? You just kind of hear a lot of the same information, and you just aren't aware of all the facts. Yeah, true. Nobody wants to debate this right now because they're all too busy obsessing over the Epstein documents.